So, good evening everybody, thank you very much for coming along, and thank you very much to Rob for the invitation to come along. Rob said, my role at Heathrow is Director of Policy and Political Relations, and that means that myself and my team, we lead on the relationship and interrelation with local authorities, with local MPs, and with local residents and communities and business groups. And normally when I speak in the evening, normally it's in a residents group being organised by a local authority or local MP, and normally those are quite challenging evenings. So Rob has assured me that tonight, for the first time, I won't have eggs or rotten fruit thrown at me, and that many people in the audience tonight will actually be supportive and more receptive of some of the arguments that I'm going to put across. So I hope that's the case. But if some of you do have doubts, if some of you do have questions, then at the end of the evening we're going to have a question and answer session, and I would very much be interested to try to address those doubts and answer those questions, but also always open to ideas as to how we can improve in terms of how we present arguments and how we can refine the proposals we're putting forward. So obviously Heathrow Airport is a separate entity to Back Heathrow. Back Heathrow, as Rob said, is not just supporting the option that we're putting forward, but also other options about Heathrow. So there are some questions tonight that I think that will be better placed for me to answer. So I'm very glad that I was able to be here tonight to do that. So what I'm going to do is talk through the arguments that Heathrow Airport has been making over the last few months or few years, and then to update you on what's been happening over the last few weeks since Heathrow Airport was shortly one of our options we submitted was shortlisted, and so the next steps that we're going to take. So first of all, I just want to talk about why it is that Heathrow Airport is proposing expansion and why we need to expand, because it's quite clear there is considerable opposition to Heathrow expanding. So if we didn't need to, if we felt that there would be no harm in Heathrow expanding, then we wouldn't be so keen on it. We wouldn't be arguing so strongly in favour of it. So the main, Rob referred to the Airports Commission that the government has set up to look at this question of airport capacity in the southeast. And essentially what this commission's been asked to do is been asked to look at ways in which the UK's role in the world, its connectivity, can be protected, because at the moment the UK is pretty well connected, but even more importantly, how it can be enhanced. Because the UK, through its hub airport at Heathrow, is really well connected to the traditional markets that the UK trades with, to North America, to the Far East, to cities like Tokyo and Hong Kong, as well as to Europe. There is probably no city in the world that's better connected than London. The problem comes when you start looking at the emerging economies, the new economies where the growth is going to be over the next couple of decades. This map here, for those of you with very good eyesight, but if you just kind of bear with me, that essentially those places in pink are cities around the world where they are emerging economies, where millions of people live, where there is millions of pounds worth of trade to be done, and those pink cities have another thing in common, as well as being emerging economies, is that they are all connected to EU hubs, but not Heathrow. So you can fly from Amsterdam, from Frankfurt, from Paris to those cities, but you can't fly to London from those cities. And the reason why you can't fly to those cities from London is because Heathrow is full. And because Heathrow is full, airlines just simply can't put on the routes to these new routes that they would like to be able to do. But our competitors at Amsterdam, at Paris and Frankfurt, where they're running at about 70% capacity, there you can put on these new routes. So as we go forward, what's going to happen is that this gap's going to get even bigger. At the moment, this map shows 25 cities. By next year, that'll be 27. By the year after, it'll be 30. By the year after that, 35. Then it'll be 40. Then it'll be 50. This situation, this gap is never going to narrow. It's going to get wider and wider and wider. And as it gets wider and wider and wider, so the gap between the UK's competitiveness and the competitiveness of France, Holland and Germany gets wider and wider and wider. So, but there is space at Gatwick, at Stansted, at Luton, at Manchester, at Birmingham, at Glasgow, at Edinburgh. So if this connectivity, this long-haul connectivity, is so valuable and so important, why is it then that airlines just don't go and operate from one of the other airports that aren't full in the UK? The answer to that is because Heathrow is unique in the UK as a hub airport. What a hub airport is it allows the airlines to combine the passengers who want to fly direct from London to a destination, allows the airline to combine those people with people who are flying in from lots of other destinations. So this is best exemplified by a real example. And this example here is of London to Mexico City. And these figures are from 2012, so I do need to update it soon, 2013 figures, but for now, it'd be much the same. So Mexico City is one of those destinations that I think most people would agree, if the UK is serious about its role in the world, if the UK is serious about doing trade, attracting tourists, exports, inward investment, then Mexico City is the type of destination that the UK needs to be connected to. The spots in orange, and I'll help people with the numbers at the back here, these spots in orange here, these are the people who want to fly direct every day from London to Mexico. And there's 163 of them. Now 163 is a good number every day, not enough though to fill a long-haul aircraft. So what the airlines could do is they could fly every other day, or they could fly, just during September and October, not fly during January and February when not so many people travel. But of course, if you're doing trade, if you're doing inward investment, if you're doing tourism, people want to be able to fly all the time. They don't want to have to say, oh, sorry, I can't do any business with you till September because I can't get a flight. So the airlines need to be able to operate every day, all year round. So the way they do that is they combine those directs, those orange seats, those 163 on average each day, with all the purple seats. Now, the purple seats alternate from according to the day of the week, according to the time of the year. On busy days, on Sundays and during September, October, when there's lots of people travelling, then there'll be probably more orange people on the plane and less purples. But on Wednesday afternoons in February, where there's less people wanting to fly direct from London to Mexico, then the airlines, by using pricing, can attract more of these indirect passengers. So on an average day, you can see that the airlines, so BA, who operate from London to Mexico, 8 of the seats on the plane are filled by people who fly to Heathrow from UK regions. So that could be 2 from Aberdeen, 2 from Belfast, 1 from Glasgow, 2 from Newcastle, 1 from Manchester. So there's those 8 people added to the 163 that are flying from London. They also bring in 108 people from elsewhere in Europe. So that could be 2 from Gothenburg, and 1 from Barcelona, and 1 from Dublin, and 2 from Geneva, and 3 from Warsaw. Again, all those people want to fly to Mexico, can't fly to Mexico from any of those cities, they've got to fly via somewhere else. They can come via Heathrow. 14 people come from the Middle East, from Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Qatar, and then 11 people, 3% from the rest of the world. So what Heathrow enables BA to do is to combine the 163 people flying from London with the 170 people flying from elsewhere in the world. Suddenly they've got 330 people a day who want to fly from want to fly from Heathrow to Mexico City. That therefore enables them to operate a viable service every day of the year. You extend that, extrapolate that to another 90 long-haul destinations around the world, and that is how the house of cards at Heathrow begins to get together. It combines the short-haul network with the long-haul network, makes it possible for airlines to operate routes where they couldn't operate. As Rob said, certainly from Heathrow's point of view, we're not opposed to Gatwick expanding. If there's demand from EasyJet and Ryanair and the charter carriers operating Gatwick, that's great. What Heathrow's about, though, is about combining these transfer passengers with the direct passengers to create a long-haul network that can't be rivaled anywhere else in the UK. That's what makes Heathrow unique, and that is why expanding the hub airport is what Davis is about. And what that means is that this top map here, these purple dots, are all the long-haul destinations that can be operated from Heathrow. On this map here, the green dots are all the long-haul destinations that can be flown from every other UK airport. So that's Gatwick and Aberdeen and Birmingham and Manchester all put together. So 80% of the UK's long-haul connectivity comes from Heathrow, 20% from the other UK airports. You can see that a large proportion of them are the Caribbean and Florida, i.e. they're just leisure tourism routes from Manchester and from Gatwick. But in terms of that global distribution, that's, I think, exemplifies and shows you how different Heathrow is from other UK airports. That's what the hub, those purple dots, that's what the hub enables the airlines to be able to do that you can't from other airports. So, not only is the hub airport important, but it's just as important is where is it? And as Robert's referred to, the Mayor of London suggested that actually, yes, he agrees with us. So far, with my presentation, the Mayor of London wouldn't disagree with anything I've said. This is where we begin to diverge, because his view is, yes, the hub is vital. London needs a hub airport that can provide that connectivity, but in his view, Heathrow's in the wrong place. You should close Heathrow and build a new hub in the Thames estuary. Our assertion, our view, is that actually Heathrow's in exactly the right place, and there's a number of reasons for that. It's in the right place for passengers, because if you look about where people who are flying long haul live and you plot all their postcodes, the average position is Beaconsfield, which is about 7 or 8 miles from here. In the whole of the country, that's the average. So actually, for where passengers where passengers live who want to fly, just to the northwest of London would be the perfect location. Where business is located, what this map here shows you is the locations of the headquarters of the top 300 companies in the country. 202 of them are within 25 miles of Heathrow. Now yes, that includes the City of London and Canary Wharf and those, but it also includes the M4 corridor, the M3 corridor, the M3 and West London itself. 202 of the 300 top companies are based around here. That's not an accident. The surveys that are done of businesses is why do you choose to work in a place? They list their top 5. And yes, access to a skilled workforce and business rates, those are important. But 2 of the top 5 are about access to markets. That's what you need a hub airport, and then connectivity connectivity to trading partners. And that is what Heathrow provides, and that is why many of these companies, not all of them, but many of these companies have based themselves around Heathrow. And if you look at the type of companies that are based on the Golden Mile in Hounslow, along the M4, are based in Slough. Slough's wonderful, Hounslow is wonderful, but do you really believe that all those companies would be based there if it wasn't because of their proximity to Heathrow? I said about where passengers live, but not everybody has the great advantage that I think most people in this room does of living near the airport and being close. It's also about how about where Heathrow is in relation to the whole country. And I think most people would say that building an airport over here, when the population lives over here, is the wrong side of London. But there are some gaps in the connectivity market for Heathrow. And although we are well placed, we have the Heathrow Express, we have the Piccadilly line. It's not great. So we're delighted that in 2018 Crossrail comes to Heathrow. In 2020 we get the Western Rail access, which is the link from Heathrow out to the west to Reading to Windsor, which access is there. And the other project that we have said would be absolutely essential before we build a 3rd runway is the Southern Rail access, the link down to Staines and ultimately into Clapham Junction in southwest London. Absolutely key. And adding all those missing links together, the missing links for Western Rail access, the Southern Rail access, it's only 17 miles of new railway that will be needed. But if you've got that 17 miles, then that's the link in. The other issue, the other project which is related is HS2 and Old Oak Common. I think that I'm not here to defend the HS2 project. It's a different, it is as controversial probably as Heathrow is. But what I would say about high-speed rail is that, from our point of view, we think it's just absolutely beggars belief that you would design a high-speed rail network, that you'd have a national high-speed rail network that isn't plugged into your hub airport. We look at all the other countries that have successful high-speed rail networks: Germany, Japan, France. Absolutely, they're almost based around around the hub airport. So we're certainly very supportive of, if HS2 is built, it needs to come to the airport.